Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member. Appreciate the opportunity to crash your subcommittee. I know you don't see me enough, so I thought I would stop by. But this is an important issue, and you and I have had an opportunity, Mr. Chairman, in your office to talk about banking and the problems with community banking that we have in some of our more rural states and our more rural areas within our states. And I would argue that the economic downturn probably had more to do with housing, at least in our communities, than any other issue. I know gasoline prices played a big role in that also, but ultimately it was the crash of the housing market. In Nevada, and I know some of my colleagues have heard this before, but over 50% of the homes in Las Vegas today are underwater. We have over 400,000 homes in Nevada that have received foreclosure notices. And to make matters worse, we've probably lost half of our community banks in the last 5 years. Probably half of those banks. I mean, obviously making it very difficult for the economy to bounce back. We had a report last week on unemployment, and it actually jumped a half a point in Nevada last week. Although I do see, and most people are noticing, that there is some recovery that's occurring in my home state. But so putting all those issues together, and you can imagine the concern and the reason why I'm here to have this discussion with this panel, because I believe the panel that's here today are frankly the individuals that are going to help solve this problem in the future. So my question, since you're the expert, have you had an opportunity to take a look at the Corker-Warner bill? Do you have any insider opinions on it?
Corker-Warner-Heller bill?
Senator, again, we're very happy that the legislation has been introduced. We've formed a working group to take a closer look at it, and we haven't come to any determinations, but we're happy to, when we're done, provide any technical advice you'd like on certain aspects of the bill.
Okay. You made comments earlier in your discussions with others on the panel about the importance of the secondary market. And I agree with you 100%. I think there is a role for the secondary market. I think there's a role for government to play in that to make sure that there is some level of certainty and liquidity out there so that these home loans can be made. And I think you've answered this question. We keep asking you the same question over and over again, but we're trying to get to the bottom of whether or not you believe that Freddie and Fannie need to be reformed.
I think housing finance needs to be reformed. I think there needs to be a level playing field for anyone who wants to issue, whether you're large or small. I do think it's important, again, for a special attention be paid to the smaller institutions because of the public interest that they serve in communities across this country. I just think that's critical. So whatever legislation is introduced and enacted, I do believe that that is a crucial part to the long-term recovery of our nation.
If after 5 years we do nothing, what would the consequences of that be?
Be very, it's hard to imagine. Certainly I'm hoping that that will not be the case, that whatever legislation the Congress agrees upon will be enacted and will be well along the way of implementing housing reform. I just hope that that is not the case.
Do you believe that this lack of housing reform, or as slow as we've moved here in Congress, do you believe that that has slowed our economic recovery?
Well, I believe that this is the last piece that needs to be addressed. Again, I spent the last 23 years at the FDIC and just came out of a banking crisis, and certainly housing was a big part of that. And I just believe that once we get this done, that we'll be well along our way to a recovered nation.
Do you believe by not doing any reforms to Fannie and Freddie that we'd be susceptible to another housing market crash?
Fannie and Freddie just absolutely have to be reformed. That model was broken, and they had to borrow $185 million from the taxpayers, and that's untenable. They are not capitalized entities, and this is a big part of our housing future, and we need to fix it.
Ms. Thompson, thank you for your testimony. Again, Mr. Chairman, thank you for allowing me to come in and ask a few questions.
You're welcome anytime.
Thank you.
Senator